All right, so Matthew Hutchinson will be here momentarily. I'm Taylor Phillips. Meantime, this is the football preview in 2022 episode of the edition of the Michigan Sports Truth podcast. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_truth. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to its YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please do so. Business shout outs go to Cali Tickets. Call Mark Goldman at 877-225-8425 or visit calitickets.com. And Creative Embroidery of Cadillac, designing my logo on my podcast logo on my long sleeve shirt and t-shirt. Hey Matthew, how's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you today?
Pretty good. This is
All
Matthew
right.
Hutchinson, my sidekick, my new sidekick. And we are going to preview right now the football season for the Michigan State Spartans, the Michigan Wolverines, and the Detroit Lions. So let's get to it right now, starting with the Michigan State Spartans. Mel Tucker's entering his third season at Michigan State. Some people thought he was overrated last year, but that he proved them wrong last year.
I think people that think he's overrated are very ignorant to football. You don't get mentioned in the circles he was mentioned in for jobs without being very good at your job. He's got a good pedigree, and I think this recruiting class he's had should show he's for real. Having said that, I think Michigan State's ultimately going to take a step back this year because I think expectations might be a little high, but by 2020, the fall of 2023 and moving forward, he's going to have them competing in the top of the Big Ten and the top 15 of the country year in and year out. He's that good of a coach. Mm-hmm. He's put a great staff around him too.
Yeah, definitely. At least they have a strong recruiting class. Can we go over that?
Great recruiting class. The one thing that I was a little bit concerned about, though, was the lack of depth brought in at quarterback again for them. This is a couple straight years where they didn't get their guy and they didn't get any guy at the quarterback position. They were very strong on the offensive line, defensive line as well. They got a couple young men from the South that were being recruited by Tennessee and Alabama, SEC schools, and has great edge speed. They got better in every level for their recruiting class on defense. I just worry about that quarterback position and where's the next quarterback coming from.
Yep. And speaking of positions, we got the running back position. Are the Spartans going to get another transfer running back stud? That's what people are asking too.
Well, they've got a couple situations. Who they brought in from Wisconsin, Jalen Bruger, he is phenomenal. He is a 4-star recruit coming in. He's from New Jersey. He was brought into Wisconsin. He got playing time. He was playing well, just had a falling out with the coaching staff, didn't want to be there anymore, took advantage of the transfer portal. They have another back that came from Auburn, but last year at the start of the season was just recovering from COVID and never really got going. That's the player that I think could be the power back in this offense and really take them, give them another dimension. Walker last year, you're not going to get – the fans are expecting another Walker this year. It's not going to – he was a phenomenal football player. He was just lightning in a bottle that they caught in that transfer portal. So I think if that's what they're expecting from every running back transfer, I think they're going to be hurting. But Coach Tucker's done a great job of bringing in people that mesh with his system. With as many transfers as he brought in last year, I really thought you were going to see an erosion in the culture that he was starting to build. And it didn't at all. They were all really plugged in and bought in and had great things to say about the program when they left. So that's one thing about Michigan State. I'm a diehard Michigan fan, but one thing you can say about Michigan State is their coaches do a great job of building the culture and getting everyone to buy in. And the student body gets behind them. The alumni really buys in. So one thing about Michigan State fan base, they are extremely passionate. And I think that goes a long way with Tucker. And I think that's what bothers Michigan fans and the rest of the Big Ten and the Notre Dame fans about Coach Tucker and about the hype with him. And that's why I hear, oh, he's overrated. He hasn't done anything yet. Hasn't done anything yet. He's been there a short time, and that cupboard was completely bare when he came in. Coach D'Antonio did not do a good job recruiting his last couple seasons. So he came in to a rough situation. He's done a great job. He's the real deal.
Yeah, Mel Tucker. And those fans say that he's overrated because they just don't like the team. It's a rivalry.
Exactly. It's a silly thing to say for the rivalry because we need Michigan State to be good. We want them to be good when as a Michigan fan, if we beat up on them for the next 10 years, like they beat up on us for the previous 10, we'd like them to still be good the rest of the year. So it's not just a victory like it's Rutgers or something like that. But Michigan State's going to be good for a long time. He's got the 10-year deal, so he's going to be there a while. So he's able to sell that along with great facilities, beautiful campus. It's a marketing school. He can go to a party school and be a marketing major if you want to go to school there, but that's fine too. But no, it's a great culture that he's building there. I think overall the Spartans, I think you're going to see 8 wins this year. That's my prediction for them, 8 wins. I think they're going to struggle a little bit out of the gate, and I think that they're going to take a step back. It's going to upset the fan base, but by next year, you're going to be a top 4 team in the Big Ten every single year from here on out.
So in other words, 8-4 when they take on those Big Ten opponents, plus non-conference opponents such as Western Michigan, Akron, Washington, and Washington. Those 3 right here, and then the rest of the Big Ten, the rest of the way.
And that's one thing about their schedule. If you look, they should be 3-0 in the non-conference, but I think Washington's going to pose a couple problems for them. And I think that's a game where traditionally maybe they've stumbled in the past historically as the Spartans. So we'll see what happens there. That Washington game is going to be a big game for them. If they win that, then maybe they're a 10-win team. Because I do think for whatever reason, Michigan's going to struggle with them again this year. But I see 8 wins for the Spartans this year. If they get past that Washington game, I'm going to call it 10 because I think that just jumps them up a level.
I'll go 9-3 just to range it for a bit.
Right.
And that Washington game, by the way, is on the road for those that haven't caught up to the schedule. Saturday, September 17th, 7:30 at Washington on ABC.
Big game.
Yeah. And then they play Ohio State in October on October 8th. That's pretty early. It's at home at Spartan Stadium against those Buckeyes. Time and channel to be determined. But, yeah, pretty early. And then 2 weeks. Yeah, in 2 weeks, 3 weeks later, they play Michigan after they play their bye week following their Wisconsin homecoming game.
Yeah. I think it's a situation where if they're going to have a chance with Ohio State, they need that to be a night game. They need there to be high energy because they need Ohio State to make some big mistakes early so that they can run the ball, keep that on the move, because Ohio State is going to be a steamroller this year.
Oh yeah, they're going to be one of those steamrolling teams.
They've got a high payroll. They ought to be a steamroller, right? They've got an SEC style payroll.
Yeah.
One thing I got away from though, and I didn't answer the question on the key position for the Spartans this year.
That's right. Yeah.
Really easy to say quarterback, but I actually think the playmaking wide receivers, that who is going to step up and be the playmaker at wide receiver for them, because I think their quarterback play is solid, if not spectacular, but I think they've got to have someone step up at wide receiver to be a game breaker down the field, because we know they're going to be able to run the ball. We know they're going to be able to play defense. Who can be the game breaker to keep those defenses honest and from doing 9 and 8 man boxes all game long against the Spartans? So we've got to have a breakout receiver. I'm going to be real frank. I don't see it on the roster. I look up and down, and there's going to be a freshman, I think, that'll step up, but I look up and down it. I don't see it like I do with some other teams in the Big Ten and nationally where I can say that's a number 1 receiver. Get the ball to that person and they'll make a play. But someone will stand out. There's always someone that's got to catch the football. So we'll see how that goes the first few weeks of the season.
Yeah, and that's the Spartans. Next, the Wolverines. Now, they beat Ohio State last year, and then they crushed Iowa, but then they ran into a brick wall in the elite Georgia Bulldogs in the college football playoff semifinals.
Yeah.
And I learned from the get-go that Georgia has more college football playoff competition experience than Michigan, because this is Michigan's first time in the college football playoff, And they learned it. The Wolverines learned it the hard way from the Bulldogs, who went on to nip Alabama in the championship game.
They sure did. You know what? No shame in losing to the national champion.
Right.
There were a lot of people that said Michigan got embarrassed. They were in over their head, but they were playing a great team with a phenomenal defensive line. There were people on the defensive line that were as fast as our wide receivers. As a Michigan fan, it was tough to watch, but as a Michigan fan, too, I think a lot of the fan base is unrealistic about what Michigan is with 2 national titles in like 85 years. So we're not a perennial top 5 team. To make the college football playoff, I think as a college football fan, to make that Final Four, that's all you can hope for a season. And then if you get lucky in those last 2 games, that's great. But the Michigan Wolverines, phenomenal Cinderella season. It was for real, though. We're going to be singing Hail to the Victors one of these days as a national championship team. But it's not going to be this year. And the big reason to me, it's not a fluke last season, but I think 10 wins is the ceiling for Michigan this year. And the reason is because of this quarterback controversy that we have. We've got 2 starting quarterbacks. You know what that means? We've got 0 starting quarterbacks.
In other words, 0 starting / backup quarterbacks. They're both Cade McNamara and J.J. McCarthy, again, just like last year.
It's the same story, and it's the same thing. And I've got a little insider info. I'm not going to reveal too much on the story because it'll give up who it is. But these 2 are not at each other's throats or anything like that. It's a friendly competition. The coaching staff knows that JJ is the guy talent-wise. Okay, everyone and the players also too know that JJ is the guy talent-wise. But Cade's a winner. Cade wins at everything. If you're on his team playing basketball, pickup hoops, you win. If you're playing floor hockey, you win. He's a winner, and that's what people love about him, and people buy in. He's the first one there, last one to leave mentality. So what the coaching staff is doing with this 2-week tryout, and again, nothing says great idea like bringing your quarterback competition into the season. I don't get it. But what they're doing is they're hoping that when people see, because these are 2 tomato cans they're playing. These should be showcases for each of them. What they're hoping is that JJ makes it so glaringly obvious he's the guy that you can't help but start him come week 3. But the other side of it is that if this pushes Cade's game up another level and he shows he's the guy, everyone's happy with that too. Because again, the players love Cade. He's their guy. And it's not that JJ's unloved or anything like that, but Cade's their guy. He's been there longer. He's the older guy. And there's something about him that he is the guy. And also JJ has that too. I don't want to come off as if they're not rallying around JJ as well, but Cade's their dude. That's the guy that they're willing to play for. JJ's got all the talent in the world, but this reeks of 1999 and Drew Henson and Tom Brady. Probably not the same talent levels that we're looking at, but a similar situation where we've got a very talented team. But when you've got 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
Yeah. So what I see in weeks 1 and 2 in terms of the quarterback position between McNamara and McCarthy, they have to continue to be evaluated before the season rolls down the line with weeks 3 through 13 and stuff.
Absolutely.
Including the bye week.
Absolutely.
Plus they got those non-conference. And they got those 3 non-conference games all at home against Colorado State, Hawaii, and Connecticut. In other words, UConn. Powerhouses. No, it's a cup outside of conference this season. I guess they want to go be undefeated outside of conference, get those 3 definite wins, but I don't like the idea of not challenging yourself out of conference. I think it's a cupcake schedule. But again, that's 3 guaranteed wins. And they've got a lot of returning starters. So there's no reason to think they're not going to compete for a Big Ten championship. But I feel like with this 2 quarterback system, there's going to be a stumble game that no one sees coming. Maybe it's the Maryland game this year. Something could happen there. Maryland's got a very good defensive line and offensive line this year, and they're going to win in the trenches. And that could be a problem for the Wolverines. But again, we keep going back to the 2 quarterback thing because there's so many returning starters.
it's easy to pencil Cade in there. But watching JJ with that arm strength and that just athletic ability, the certain X factor that you don't quite put a finger on, you can't tell people what it is, but when you see it, you know. And he's certainly got that when he's out there. But it's just going to, how soon can that quarterback decision get made?
Yeah, and we'll see what happens down the road with McNamara and McCarthy. Plus, you've lost Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo. Those key players were graduated. They graduated from U of M and were drafted. Hutchinson to the Lions, which we'll get to next.
Oh yeah,
can't wait because he made a sack, by the way, against Atlanta. Oh, the first defensive transition, but the returning starters and rivalry matchups such as Michigan State and Ohio State. Plus they've got key matchups at Iowa, at Indiana. Indiana's a dark horse as usual. Penn State at home, and then in November they got the easier teams such as Nebraska. Well, Rutgers is not as easy, but Michigan can still beat them on the road, even on the road. Plus they got Illinois.
Well, Illinois did beat up on Wyoming yesterday. And also, too, really happy. Big shout out to the Northwestern Wildcats. Love to see Scott Frost and the Nebraska Cornhuskers get beat. Scott Frost stole an outright national title from the Wolverines in '97 because of his big mouth. But anyway, it was great to see that. I think the Wolverines, as far as their returning starters, I mean, there's a lot of talent there. There's Eric All at tight end. We've got 3 linemen coming back on the offensive line. Defensively, yes, we lost our edge rushers, but Mazzie Smith at defensive tackle's phenomenal. He can play the 3 technique or the 5 technique. In the defensive backfield, we've got Mike Sandstrom moving over from the offensive side of the ball to give us even more depth at the nickel position, slot corner. So he gives us a lot of depth. A lot of stuff revolves around, but the key position is center, right in the middle of that offensive line. And we brought in a recruit from the University of Virginia who's going to be phenomenal. He came to Michigan for the studies and for the ability to run the ball. And that's what Michigan's going to do. They're going to get behind those big guys up front, and they're going to run with Blake Corum. They're going to run with Donovan Edwards. They're going to be a phenomenal running team, a top 10 running team this season. And they're not going to put their quarterbacks in a spot to make mistakes. So it's going to be that. The big games for them, Iowa at night in Kinnick Stadium in the black and gold game, that's a tough one to win all the time. That's a tough one. Penn State at home looks like that's going to be the night game this year, or a night game this year, as well as Hawaii, obviously on the 10th. So that'll be something to watch. But Michigan State and Ohio State, you got to get a split out of those two. And it really needs to be, if you're going to lose one, unfortunately, you got to lose to Michigan State, because if you can beat Ohio State, you're going to be in that Big Ten title game and have a chance at the college football playoff.
That is as is every year between the Wolverines and Buckeyes. And I like the Wolverines and Spartans equally, as I usually do personally. But yeah, but we still got to analyze like we always do between those two particularly.
Yeah, I think that Michigan State, the way that they're going to run the football again this year, and Michigan's going to be dominant in the trenches as well, but there's just something about the way the Spartans run the football in the month of October against Michigan that creates a whole lot of problems, creates a lot of third and shorts.
Even without Kenneth Walker.
Quarterbacks to succeed.
Even without Kenneth Walker.
Yep. Yeah, again, and there's a lot of talent at the running back position for Michigan State. The cupboard is not empty.
Yeah.
They have 4 guys that would be starters on 75% of the college football teams out there. So they're going to have a lot of depth at running back position. At wide receiver, they're thin. And unless they have someone really step up for them, I worry about them seeing a lot of 8 and 9 man boxes.
Yeah. And like we pointed out, the record prediction, Michigan, I think either 10 or 11 wins, pending how they fare against Michigan State and Ohio State.
I agree with you. I think they're going to be in that in the playoff conversation most of the year. I think the quarterback situation, though, hopefully it gets resolved early, and hopefully we don't lose. If it is Cade, hopefully JJ sticks around. We don't lose him to transfer. That's a normal thing nowadays, but he said he's committed to the University of Michigan, and that's a great thing. That seems like a great group of kids. We'll see what happens, but I really think that game at Iowa is the turning point of the season. That game at Iowa is just as important this year as Michigan State and Ohio State. Kinnick Stadium at night, black and gold game, the Children's Hospital overlooking the stadium. It's a weird energy that goes in that place, and there's been a whole lot of times Michigan's come out on the losing end. So that's going to be a game to watch this year. But, yeah, 10 or 11 wins I think is definitely realistic for the Wolverines.
Yeah. By the way, that that Kinnick Stadium in Iowa has been trouble for Michigan State as well.
It's trouble for everyone. It's a tough place to play. Iowa is never a fancy team. They do the basic things really well and seem to always do them under the current coaching staff. But the way that Kirk Ferentz has them play at night, and the way that it was even when I was a small kid, it's always been Iowa's an upset place when you play them at night in Iowa.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's the Wolverines. 10-2 or 11-1. That's our record prediction.
I love it.
We ran through everything, and now the Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell's second season as head coach, 3-13-1. Lots of defensive mistakes, and the offense struggled through the first 12 games, but the last 5 games, including that thriller at home against Minnesota, the Vikings, they not only got their first win, but they picked up a little bit of momentum with Jared Goff under center.
Yeah, absolutely. The last 5 games, it looked like a different team. That's for sure. But one thing that really stuck out to me, at first I kind of thought the Dan Campbell thing might be just a joke. It might be a player version of a Marty Morningweg, someone that is just a personality and no substance there. And then I started to learn more about Dan Campbell, that part of the Parcells coaching tree, learn from Sean Payton, everything like that. And the more I was impressed. And then throughout the season, they'd have those hiccups at the end, like every other Lions team. But there
especially in the
different
secondary when it comes to closing games out.
They couldn't close it out. I mean, it brought me back to the 2006, 7, and 8.
Because you leave the opposing wide receivers wide open and don't even cover them. Not only
exactly,
you're supposed to cover them and also make the defensive play, especially on 4th and 19, for example.
Always, yeah.
Against
and
Baltimore.
It was typical Lions things, but this team felt like they never gave up on Dan Campbell, and I love that energy that he brings in. I hope Motor City Dan Campbell's for real, but we're going to find out this season. I'm real worried, though, because everyone seems to think this is going to be an 8, 9, 10-win team, and I'm sorry, I don't see it. We'll get to what I think the record prediction is at the end, but I'm a little bit hesitant to dive all the way into that pool and say we're a playoff team this year. There's a lot of rebuilding, and we still have Jared Goff under center. I mean, we'll see what happens there. But also, too, with the defensive mistakes, how is it that Aaron Glenn was getting looks as a head coach at places? I love Aaron Glenn. I want him to be in Detroit for a long time. Love his energy. But I think when we get players, he'll be fine. But I just didn't see head coach quite yet from a guy who coached that defense. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah. But the best offseason addition is Aiden Hutchinson when the Lions drafted him.
Well, Hutchinsons are amazing stock. Okay, they're going to be, no matter what, when you bring a Hutchinson in, you're bringing cream of the crop gene pool in. So that's the main thing. But he's a game changer. He's a guy who it's real easy. I've heard a lot of people compare him to the Bosas and things like that. He actually reminds me, and going way back, Bruce Smith. The way that he can dominate the line of scrimmage with his physical strength, the way he gets off a block, it reminds me of Bruce Smith. If you put on tape of Aiden Hutchinson's last year at Michigan and watch some early Bruce Smith at the Bills, you're going to see a lot of the same similarities, a lot of the same hip flex. The ability to get low, though, is something that I think he sacrifices a little strength from Smith, but he's that bend on the outside, that Derek Thomas bend getting around the edge he has. And he's just a phenomenal prospect. Seems to be a hard worker as well. It looks like a home run pick from the Lions. And that's something to get excited about and get fired up for as a fan, because he has 10 sacks this year. Everyone in the front office looks like a genius, and it gets fans fired up regardless of the record, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, regardless of the record is right. Just gotta keep it up.
Yep, exactly. And you know what? I'm really excited. There's a lot of people that are hesitant now, or a little bit skittish to get all behind Jameson Williams right now. I'm telling you what, that guy, the coaching staff, has nothing but amazing things to say about his work ethic and the mental reps that he's taking. He's involved in there and present on every drill. And that's really hard to do anyways as part of a practice, let alone when you can't participate in it, to still have yourself a part of it. He's done a great job. He's impressed a lot of veterans in camp as well. And they're targeting week 8 for him. So that's something to think about. With the bye coming, they might leave him out until right after the bye, the week after the bye. But they're targeting week 7 or 8 for him to come back. He's on the PUP list, so he's obviously out the first 4 weeks. But that's not a bad. That's what everyone expected. So we've got 2 first-round rookies that a lot of hype behind. So we'll see what happens there. I think Aiden Hutchinson's the real deal, and I think Williams has a chance to be the real deal. We've seen a lot of good play from Alabama receivers recently. Right when they come into the league, they're making an impact.
Yeah. Also, Hutchinson's also going to be a standout on defense. The standouts on offense as well. Tom Kennedy still fighting for that final roster spot or 2, with Jameson Williams being out for at least 4 weeks.
I'm going to say I think Tommy makes the roster. I think Tommy Kennedy makes the roster. I think Zistro makes the roster as well. I think he's been the second best tight end in camp. Most of the coaching staff thinks that as well. His ability to block and be a third tackle at certain times, as far as in goal lines, packages, and things like that. He's got a lot of versatility there. He helps the team out a lot. I like where they're going there. I think the real standout is to see what Amon-Ra St. Brown goes to. Were his stats all just because someone's got to catch the ball on the team? We got to move the ball. Someone's going to catch it. Or is he for real? I had him as the 6th best receiver coming out in the draft. I couldn't believe he fell as far as he did. I think some of it was because he was short and he didn't run a blazing 40 at his pro day. So I'm a big fan of Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he is the perfect wide receiver in this offense. He can get open. He's the first down guy. He's the release valve for the quarterback. And at tight end, Hawk, he's got to stay healthy. We need him on the field. He's phenomenal. He's an all-pro tight end. He stays healthy, we're going to be phenomenal. But the key position on offense, going to be Penei Sewell. How he plays at tackle this year is going to be key for that offensive line, because he's got a ton of responsibility on him right now. It's the coaching staff did want to move him to left and move Taylor to right. Still sounds like a season away from that. They still don't think he's gotten his adult strength yet. They still think he's he's only 21. A lot of people don't realize that about him. So he's still got the baby strength is what the coaching staff thinks. And a couple pieces of insider info. Coaching staff's real concerned about DeAndre Swift. Okay. They see the talent. They see the ability. No one's concerned about this. And people have hit on this on Hard Knocks. He doesn't believe, DeAndre Swift, that is, doesn't believe that DeAndre Swift is a top 5 running back in the league. Now, that's just what some people inside the house, let's say, think. There's some thought to the fact that he is not, in his head, he doesn't believe he's there yet as a running back. They think the talent's there. Deuce Staley obviously loves him. He goes to, jumps on the table for him. He loves him. But they think that the running back that's the key to the team is going to be Jamal Williams again this year. He's going to eat up the goal line carries. Jamal Williams, the coaching staff thinks 10 touchdowns from Jamal Williams this year, and they're a playoff team. They've said that. I was told by a member of the coaching staff, 10 touchdowns from Jamal Williams, and we're in the playoffs. So be on the lookout for that. They claim they're going to give him every opportunity to get in the end zone. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Hey, final thing, record prediction. Let's get to that. They got the Philadelphia Eagles first.
Yep.
Then they got the Commanders, Vikings, Seahawks, Patriots, Cowboys, Dolphins, Packers, Lions, or
Let's go through it.
Packers, Bears.
Yeah, I mean, I see the team starting out 2-4.
2-4.
Okay.
At least they won't go. At least they won't start winless like they did last year.
Correct. I think I actually think they win in Philadelphia week 1. Or I think that's a win over the Eagles week 1. I also think they beat the Commanders inside the first 6 weeks as well. I think that's a big deal. Now, overall for the season, my prediction is 7-10. That's my prediction for the Lions. 7-10 this season. Vegas has it at 7.5, so I'm saying the under. That's where to put your smart money. But I worry so much about them being a playoff team this year. You know, a couple things changed last year, and they're a 7-win team. Maybe those things change. They're a better team and put themselves in a situation. I don't see more than 7 wins though. If I'm being realistic, as a fan, I say 13-4. You know, that's what we're going to roll in, and they're going to have the top seed in the NFC. But realistically, I see a 7-10 ball club.
Another almost easy team would be easy opponent. What I see is the New York Jets, also the New York Giants.
Yep. That's where some of the 7 wins are coming from. It's not. Last year ended up being the 5th toughest schedule in the league for the Lions. That's the way it shook out. They played teams tough. They did not give up. They've very much taken on the personality of their coach. Hopefully that's a great thing. Again, it could be a cartoon by midseason if they're not good. If they start out 0-4, maybe it becomes a clown show. I don't see that happening this year, but I think 7-10 is going to be the record. I don't see them being a playoff team this year. One more season away. Do you think Goff is the quarterback in 2023?
Well, we'll have to see what happens this year.
Yeah.
Then I would have to give out my verdict on Goff.
Yeah, I think Jared Goff has the talent to be a top half of the league starter, but it's about putting him in the right offensive situation. And Ben Johnson, first-year offensive coordinator coming to the Lions, he's from the Adam Gase tree, which historically has not been easy on the quarterback. So we'll see how it goes, and from there. But I see 7 wins for the Lions. I hope I'm wrong in a good way, and I hope they're a 10-win team and get into the playoffs. But 7-10 is what I think with the Lions.
All right. Well, can't wait to see them in action. They play today their preseason week 3 in Pittsburgh at Acrisure Stadium at 4:30 on CBS, just about an hour away. Yeah. Any final thoughts? Any closing statements?
Closing statements is going to be a great season. Can I give you want my Super Bowl prediction right now, or do you want my national title prediction? Is that what you want me to close with?
Give me both. Give me both.
Need it. The people need it. In the national title game, I am going, this is going to be crazy. I'm actually going Alabama and Ohio State for the national title this year. I think the Crimson Tide are going to win it all. And in the Super Bowl, the Buffalo Bills.
Oh, with Josh Allen.
Josh Allen's going to lead them to the promised land. And in the NFC, I can't believe I'm about to predict this, but I actually think it's going to be the Dallas Cowboys or the Green Bay Packers. I can't – it's a toss-up. But right now I believe actually the Dallas –
For the NFC Championship game, for example.
That's going to be the NFC title game is Dallas and Green Bay. But I see Dallas getting past Green Bay. Dak Prescott's going to be the MVP of the league this season.
Match them up.
It's going to have 14 touchdowns.
Yeah, match them up. Not the Bill, but the Cowboys and the Packers. Who do you think's going to win that?
That's a tough game. Listen, the regular season matchup, the Packers all day long. But in the postseason, I'm going with the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys have something a little bit special this year, a little bit under the radar. They've got some guys that can play on the defense. They fly to the football. And I think Dak Prescott, MVP season from him. And a bounce back year for Zeke Elliott.
So if the Cowboys make the Super Bowl against the Bills, who do you think's going to win that?
Okay, Super Bowl champion this year. The Buffalo Bills, bring it home. So,
All right.
The Buffalo Bills, it's their year. Josh Allen's going to be the Super Bowl MVP. Throw for 350 yards, 4 touchdowns. You heard it here first, and you heard it here best. That's the way it is. But I appreciate you having me on again, my man. Did I say enough?
Well, hey, we ran through everything. So all the day's work,
all right,
all the season's work.
I love it. Hopefully, you'll have me on again during the season. We can talk.
All right, thanks.
All right, talk to you later.
All right, we'll probably preview Pistons as well if you follow them.
I'll be ready. I'll be ready for the Pistons. I've got some great info inside what's going on with them, and I will hopefully be able to talk some Wolverine basketball and some Spartan basketball too heading into the season.
Yep. And as far as hockey's concerned, I've got Kyle Busch from the Healthy Scratch podcast to preview the Red Wings.
Looking forward to that too. He does some great stuff.
Yes.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes.
Download Michigan Sports Truth podcast. Follow him on social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the whole 9. We'll talk to everyone later on. Thanks for having me.
And subscribe to its YouTube channel, most importantly.
Yes, absolutely. Subscribe to YouTube. Absolutely.
Yes. So that was Matthew Hutchinson. This has been the football preview in 2022. I'm Taylor Phillips. Follow the Michigan Sports Truth podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Michigan_Truth. Like its Facebook page, and like I said, subscribe to its YouTube channel. Special business shout-outs go to Mark Goldman at Cali Tickets. Call him at 877-225-8425 or visit CaliTickets.com. And Creative Embroidery in Cadillac, designing my podcast logo on my long sleeve t-shirt, my long sleeve shirt, and my t-shirt right here. So that's it. Let's get ready for some football. TTFN, ta-ta for now. Hit them with a hind, power to the people.